Hey, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop, and I'm doing a video that's been requested quite a bit recently because I have been covering some amazing stealth solo co-op games. And these types of games, stealth games, have not been very frequently designed for solo co-op play. So the fact that we have recently gotten a whole bunch of good ones is pretty awesome. So I wanted to rank my favorite games in the stealth genre, but let me specify what I mean because I wanted to limit this so I could really compare the games pretty closely to each other. So there are lots of hidden movement games and games where one side is trying to hide, another side is trying to find them. Clearly, we're cutting all the competitive games, though, because we're only doing solo co-op. Specifically, I wanted to focus on games where you are the stealthy side, not the one trying to track somebody down. I only did games that actually have some kind of board state and like guards actually moving around, so not things that are super abstracted by just cards. Games where guards can catch you and an alarm can be set off, that kind of thing. And with all of that, I only found 12 games that fit all my criteria, and I've only played 9 of them. So I'm going to mention the other 3 just to kind of get them on record, and then rank the 9 that I actually know well. And by the way, when I say ranking, I'm ranking the stealth in the game in terms of my tastes, as opposed to actually ranking the games overall, because some of the games that are lower on stealth might be favorite games for mine for other reasons. And I rated all these games on 6 criteria, which kind of shows what I like in stealth. The first one is how guards are handled and how kind of their routes are defined, because I personally like stealth games where I can see where the guards are going to move and you got to kind of sneak around them, sort of video game style stealth, I'd say. The second criteria was how alarms and canceling alarms are handled. Like, does the game, if you make one mistake, just kind of turn into alarm mode for the rest of the time and you can't do anything about it? My third criteria was player tricks. What kind of cool stealth tools and things can you use to fool the guards and do fun things? My fourth criteria was the element of randomness in the game. I'm somebody who likes a little bit of randomness in stealth. I don't want to always know exactly how everything's going to play out, but I also don't want it to be so crazy random that I can't really control and feel like I'm puzzling out my strategy to sneak by people. The fifth criteria was the fiddliness of the game. How annoying is it to have to like track everything and figure out how every guard moves, that kind of stuff. And the last criteria were the maps and scenarios in the game. How many different ways are there for me to stealth around while playing it? So with those, I'm going to rank those 9 games and mention the other 3. Let's get right to it and talk about my favorite solo co-op stealth games. So first, let's talk about the 3 games that fit my criteria but I have not played. First is one that I did a preview of but never played the final game of, and that is Stalker from Awaken Realms. This is after I found out that Awaken Realms uses AI art, and I'm not covering games that use AI art, but I've heard that the stealth system is good. Some people didn't like the noise mechanic when I did a preview for it, and I think they changed that in a pretty major way. So yeah, this could be a very good one. I'm just not going to play it. Another one that gets pretty frequent love is Reichbusters, and this one's interesting because the original Reichbusters was supposed to be pretty flawed. They had to do like a 1.5 update to try to fix it, but now Reichbusters Reloaded is on crowdfunding, and that might be a great update to the system, but like I said, I haven't gotten to play either one yet. And the last one, which is a video game series I'm familiar with, but I didn't know there was a board game, is Wolfenstein. And it's funny because Reichbusters is basically like off-brand Wolfenstein, right? Like fighting sci-fi Nazis. But this one's supposed to be very similar to Reichbusters in terms of sort of the stealth plus action combat. And yeah, it's supposed to be pretty good. But again, one I have not played. So those are the 3 that could have been my number 10 or higher theoretically if I had played them. But let's get to the 9 that I've played a lot and covered on the channel and discuss how they rank out. So all the way down at the bottom at number 9 is Sniper Elite's solo mode, because this is mainly a competitive hidden movement game, but it does have a solo mode that, unlike most hidden movement games, lets you be the sneaky person and not the one finding somebody. And in terms of my criteria, this was near the bottom for almost everything. There aren't really any guard routes to speak of because guards often just sort of teleport right next to you no matter what you do, so you can't really plan for it. The randomness of what actions they take can be pretty frustrating at times. There's only 2 maps, so there's not that much variety in like how the stealth plays out. Your turn is very quick, but figuring out how all the guards move is incredibly fiddly and frustrating and takes a really long time. You don't have that many cool tricks, like you have a few pieces of equipment and things that you can do stealth with. I don't know. This game just had a lot of flaws. I like the competitive play quite well. I think it's a well-designed game, but I do not think the solo mode really showed off well for this one. So Sniper Elite is definitely not recommended because it's my number 9 out of 9 for top stealth for solo co-op. Next at number 8 is By Stealth and Sea, which funnily enough is also by David Thompson, who did Sniper Elite. But both, again, are good games, and I actually like this game quite a lot, By Stealth and Sea. But specifically, the stealth is not my favorite. Let's talk about why. So kind of like Sniper Elite, the patrol boats just kind of appear next to your characters, so there's not really like patrol routes to dodge around and such. You don't really have any player tricks. Like, you do get later equipment and stuff, but pretty much you're just moving your little submersibles around and trying to avoid detection. So you don't really have like fun toys to play with that much. Now, I will say the fiddliness is really low here. It's actually like well done. The enemy turns go by in almost no time at all. The way they use this enemy alert deck to determine when the enemies see you and when they don't, and the deck gets modified as the game goes along, which kind of works sort of like an alarm system. Like the alarm is getting more and more raised as you move around. I think all that works well. But yeah, the fact that, again, like you're just kind of having people teleport around you and trying to dodge around them, it's still a pretty tense and good game. But for stealth play specifically, it's only my number 8. That's by Stealth and C. Next is something very different at number 7, Warfighter Shadow War. We're really sticking in war games here, aren't we? Now, this one has a new version that's being designed by somebody who's actually on our Discord. That's going to be like a ninja version of Warfighter, which I'm very excited about. And this is also a great system. It's number 7, but again, that has no bearing on the actual quality of the game. It's just specifically how they handle the stealth. And it's mainly because it is a very abstracted game. Everything is moving from left to right. You can see these cards. They kind of represent the board, and like enemies are just moving to left or right spaces. So it's all kind of linear, which certainly doesn't make stealth work in my favorite way. But I do like how the noise track works and how you can distract people. You can like lay explosives in other parts of the base to try to pull away guards and things. And while there is tons of dice rolling and certainly a high amount of randomness, there's lots of mitigation, and you're just rolling so many dice over the course of the game that usually one is not like going to make or break you. So yeah, I think this is a fun system. But again, if you want like the kind of, tactical miniature moving around stealth that most of these games are going to give you, Warfighter abstracting it away to cards is not going to quite hit the same way. So that's number 7, Warfighter Shadow War. Next at number 6 is one I covered very recently, which is the Assassin's Creed series. And I'm also lumping in V Sabotage because it's basically the same game system. It's just one is World War II themed and one is Assassin themed. So the big negatives for the Assassin's Creed system for me is the randomness. I discussed this in my review, which I forget is going to go up before or after this one. But yeah, sometimes like you just roll badly and the guards find you, and then it's very difficult to shut off the alarm. Sometimes you just have to start over. That can be frustrating. And then because the movement is abstracted to like these tiles, you can tell where guards are going, and there is some interesting movement puzzling to do with that. But also it just kind of feels like sometimes you just got to run through guards, and that kind of plays into the randomness element. But on the positive side, there are lots of cool like tricks and abilities. Your assassins can do lots of neat things, especially as you get later into the campaign. And the gameplay is very quick. Like an entire scenario can sometimes take you 20 or 30 minutes. Moving the guards and stuff is very easy to manage. And, it's fun to just hide in a hiding place and stab somebody with a hidden blade. Like that Assassin's Creed core stuff is still always a blast. So Assassin's Creed and V Sabotage all together at my number 6 spot. Next at number 5 is the Burgle Brothers series, and I'm focusing on Burgle Brothers 2. I like the stealth in that one a bit better. I have not played Burgle Brothers 3 yet, which I know is coming at some point. Now, I do want to start with the big negative first, because this was actually fighting for a top spot until I thought more about the guard routes. So the guards are moving around the level in a somewhat random way. I don't mind that very much. The thing that brings the guard rating down so much for me is player count balance. And this has been a problem for both Burgle Brothers 1 and 2, in that when you're playing at really high player counts, the guard is moving after each player's turn, and you're just sometimes getting caught by the guard, just through no fault of your own, and like, it's just annoying. Literally every other game on this list, every other game, all 11 of them, have the players all take their turns simultaneously in some fashion, and then the guards move. This is the only one where they go with a sort of pandemic style where like you move and then bad stuff happens, the next person moves and bad stuff happens. And I just think it leads to some really frustrating situations where you're getting caught by the guard because even though he wasn't moving towards you 3 turns ago, you haven't gotten to go since then. So for solo and 2-player, I think Burgle Brothers 1 and 2 are great. Those are definitely the ways I would most recommend to play them. But let's get to the good stuff, because there is a lot. Like almost everything else in the game I really enjoy. I guess randomness, the guards can be frustrating, and like how the tiles come out can be frustrating because sometimes like things are just way harder or way easier through no fault of your own. But I love the gear cards, especially in Burgle Brothers 2, and just like kind of the player powers in general are a lot of fun to like trick the guards and control things in certain ways. I like how the guards accelerate as you go through the deck, kind of acting like sort of an alarm system. This is probably the most streamlined and straightforward game to play on this entire list, these Burgle Brothers games, so it certainly wins a lot in the fiddliness. So still a really great game to play. Just if I'm playing, it's going to be like solo 2-player, maybe 3-player. Otherwise, I just find those guards way too frustrating. So that's Burgle Brothers 2 at my number 5. Next, at number 4 is another recent one, Earth Under Siege. And this is very like XCOM-ish, the board game where you are sneaking around and trying to like avoid aliens and things. And the only really truly negative part of this game for me is how they do the alarm. I do find that it can be a little bit too restrictive because basically if an enemy sees you and you don't deal with them by the end of the turn, with a few exceptions from items and things, then that's it. The alarm gets triggered and like just a billion enemies start coming out. And if you aren't already near the end of your mission, then you're never going to win. So that's the one negative part. But I will say that the luck mitigation makes it pretty much impossible because you have so many ways to re-roll your dice and improve your results. Makes it pretty much impossible for somebody to like find you and spot you unless you choose to like not spend the resources and you let them find you. And I think the tools and like the skill cards in the game are really cool. The items you can unlock and things, your different insertion methods and like ways of going into a mission that give you different tools to play with. Not too many enemies move each turn. Guard routes are pretty well defined. Some guards are just like standing there while others are actually patrolling around the board, which gives you kind of like a nice mix of things you need to do and stuff you need to deal with. So yeah, I think this is a very, very solid one for stealth and for action. The action is pretty good in this one too. It's also a campaign game like Assassin's Creed, which could be a positive or a negative depending on your taste, but that is Earth Under Siege, my number 4. And number 3 is an even more recent one, the newest game on this list, I think, Metal Gear Solid, the board game. So yeah, the only complaint I have for this one is the randomness. Because you're randomizing how far the guards move and stuff. And sometimes they move just far enough or just short enough that they see you when otherwise they wouldn't have. I've certainly had games end like that. And kind of actually even worse than Earth Under Siege, kind of like Assassin's Creed, I guess. Sometimes like a guard will just see you early and it's like, well, you might as well just restart because there's no easy way for you to get like out of sight long enough to reset the alarm. So it does have that frustration. But taking that away, I love the way the guards routes work. I think the stage is really interesting, both in how they kind of emulate what the video game did, but also in giving you kind of options to sneak around and stuff. You get tons of cool gear and equipment, and especially when you play in VR mode, which lets you freely use whichever characters you want. So you can like have Otacon with stealth camo or Gray Fox, so you can have like kind of extra tools to play with that way. There's a lot of variety in the scenarios. It's just a really cool kind of stealth system. I think the way the guards work is pretty logical. I like kind of a lot of the random elements apart from their movement, which again can be a little frustrating sometimes. Like when they reach where you used to be, because this is one of those games that like leaves a little marker behind when the guards think they saw you or whatever. When they reach where you used to be, they act in different ways. They react in different ways. When they find a guard that you've knocked out, they react in different ways. I think all of that works really well. So that's Metal Gear Solid, the board game, my number 3. My number 2 is something quite different. This is SAS Rogue Regiment. I guess we're back to the more war gamey stuff. And I'll say right away, this one was challenging for number 1, except for that fiddliness ranking. This is a game where you have to frequently be checking line of sight from like multiple guards and like checking people's elevation level, whether they're ducking or not. There's just kind of a lot to keep track of and miss that can drastically change how your game goes. But putting that aside, once you get used to that stuff, I think the scenario variety is really great, especially if you are willing to make your own scenarios, which the game makes incredibly easy. This is probably the easiest one to just kind of jump in and make your own stealth situation. I think the element of randomness is awesome. There's all these events that will change things up, and like sometimes guards will flip around unexpectedly. So there's a really nice, you can see kind of in the video right here with the guards and like these little routes they follow. There's a lot of predictability with the guards with just like that sometimes randomness that gives it that cinematic exciting feel. And then the way they do the stealth meter, I think, is great. It's actually a lot like Warfighter's noise system, where as you like make mistakes and people see you and you leave guards alive who have like noticed you, then stuff slowly ticks up. And if you don't like take care of things quickly enough, eventually the alarm will go off. But it's not as like binary as Metal Gear Solid or Assassin's Creed or some of the other ones. It's a slow build up, and it's really all about your choices and how you deal with things or don't. I think this is just a great stealth system, as long as, again, you can get by that line of sight and stuff. That's SAS Rogue Regiment, my number 2. And with that, I'm sure a lot of you know what my number 1 is, because it's a game I haven't mentioned yet. That's Burn Cycle. And this was, again, a few of the other ones were kind of coming close, except for like one big negative. For me, though, Burn Cycle has no negatives. Like I was rating all those criteria out of 5. It had all 3s or higher, whereas every other game had like at least 1, 1, or 1, 2. I think that the way the guards are handled and how varied their routes can be as they walk around the floors is really interesting. And replay, like when I play the exact same, even the exact same mission with the exact same floor again, the different types of guards and how they're kind of checking things out will change things drastically. I think the randomness, I mean, there's very little randomness. When you go into a room, there might be a guard in there, or there might not. That's the biggest randomness in the game and can definitely be a little frustrating. Besides that, the only real randomness is like how you roll your dice, but you have such mitigation and choice in how you use them that never really bothers me. Tons of fun tricks with the special powers of your characters and like gear you can pick up, and you can trick guards with like network cards and terminals and things. And then kind of again like Warfighter or like SAS, this is another one that has this track kind of building up as bad things happen and as the time goes along. So the enemy gets nastier and nastier and as you go up new levels and things. And like Metal Gear Solid, this is one where when enemies see you, you leave a little token behind, or you can use that to distract people. That's just clearly my favorite type of stealth, like kind of the last known position sort of way of doing stealth and like moving around guards and things. So yeah, I think Burn Cycle is great. It's my number one. So there you go. Those are my favorite stealth games. And like I said, you'll notice that many of the top games in the list came out in like the last year or less. It's a pretty awesome time to be a solo co-op stealth gamer. But let me know in the comments which games you think I should have included on the list. If you think others kind of fit these core criteria, which ones are your favorites and least favorites? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.